Welcome to my January-February wrap-up. And I'm combining these two together because I went to Mexico in February right before all the quarantine and stuff happened, so I'm fine, obviously, because our reading week was like the second week, I think, of February. And if you want a clip, I'll probably insert one. But that's where I was, so I did not read a whole lot in February, which was expected, so I just said to myself, like, I'll just combine these 2 months in a wrap-up. Even though it is halfway through March and we are self-quarantining right now, and I still have not uploaded any videos. I was going to show you my new little bullet journal thing, how I organized all of my reading, how I've been doing it, because 2020, new year, new me, like, even though 2020 has sucked, other than going to Mexico. After that, it was like all downhill for me. But, so here is my little thing. I put my TBR on this little bookshelf up here, and then the books that I actually read during the month, and then I have my little reviews about each book so that I can talk to you guys about them. And then I did it again for February. As you can see, I only read 3 books in February. We will talk about those. It will be a good time. So the 13 books, and so that I read 13 books in January, so that makes a grand total of 16 books. And I will not hold them up again because I held them up to do the thumbnail, and that was about it. I've also decided that we're gonna be more chill. I'm just gonna talk about books. I don't feel like introducing anything as much. I just wanted to show you how I've been keeping track of everything. Alright, so first book I read this year is on the bottom of the pile. Why is my pile upside down? Who flipped it? Do we want to start backwards or do we want to go forwards? You know what? Let's mix it up. We're gonna start backwards because I don't want to flip over this pile of 16 books. I know it's gonna fail miserably and I don't want to test it. We're gonna start at the bottom. This is the last book I read in February. I actually finished this while I was in Mexico because I had the audiobook, so while you're chilling by the pool, listening to your audiobook, I finished A Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab. This is the 3rd book in the A Darker Shade of Magic trilogy. I don't know if the trilogy actually has a name, but I was very nervous to start this because, like, I didn't know what was gonna happen because the 2nd book ends on a very cliffhanger. It's a big cliffhanger. I don't know why I said it's a very big cliffhanger. And I was very nervous to start this because it's a beast and it's huge and a lot happens, obviously. I wanted to highlight something on this page. Don't know what it is, I will find out later. But I did give this book 5 stars. If you have not read this book, it is about a bunch of different Londons. I don't know if I should explain it because so many booktubers talk about this trilogy. A lot, and honestly it's one of my favorite trilogies of all time. So if you want magic and different worlds and pirates and death and a bunch of stuff, it's just really fun. I like it a lot. It keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire time you're reading it. And the audiobook was also very fun. The 2nd book on my list for February was Eleanor and Park. I felt in the end of January I needed to get into like a romancy mood, and I had picked up another book which I will get to like 2 books from now, and I was like, I need to read that. And then so on Libby I just went on and saw whatever romance books that I owned that my library had, and this was one of them, and I read it in February before I left on my trip. I think I finished it like the Friday and I left on Sunday, and it was very cute. It was like not my favorite. I gave it 4 stars because I did enjoy it, but it wasn't like, oh wow, amazing. It was just kind of like cute and lighthearted, kind of, I guess. But it is about Eleanor and Park who meet on a bus, and Eleanor is the new girl and nobody wants to be her friend, and Park obviously doesn't want to be her friend because like he's got a reputation to uphold. But they end up like sharing comic books and listening to playlists that he makes on the bus, and eventually they end up hanging out in real life, and that's like that little adventure. But Eleanor's home life is not that great. Park has a great family. I love his family. I'm just gonna say that. I think he's a great character. He changes a lot during the book and it's really cute. Alright, the first book that I finished in February should be no surprise at this point because I think maybe there's like at least one other book from this series in this pile, and this one is Silverborn by Patricia Breaks. This series, if you hear stuff, it's because my aunt is working from home too, and I have no other option because I want to film today to have these uploaded when I need them to be, the videos that I want to film, and she's doing her workout downstairs and working from home, like actually working. So my classes are over for today. I'm going to do this. So Silverborn, this series is honestly the best thing to ever happen to me. I think I'm going to read like more of Patricia Briggs stuff because back in grade 11 when Wattpad was a thing and everybody wrote werewolf stories, I was there. And this brings back so many emotions that I need from like that time, you know? It's very nostalgic and I love it. I was like, werewolves, coyotes, fae, vampires, all the good stuff, all the real stuff, not the sparkly ones. They're real vampires. This is where it's at. I gave Silverborn 5 stars. And now we can go into January. The last book that I finished in January is, how do you say, Denial, Holocaust History on Trial by Deborah E. Lipstadt. I think I said that right. I hope I said that right. I listened to the audiobook of this one as well. I think I listened to almost all audiobooks. I have been converted because I can write notes and listen to an audiobook at the same time now. So I do it all the time because I write notes all the time. But anyways, this thing, it sounds very weird. It's also a true story. Basically, what happens is Deborah, because this is like her writing it, wrote a book. I can't remember what the book. Oh, Denying the Holocaust is what it was called, and I would like to also read that. She mentioned this man, David Irving, and said that he was a Holocaust denier. She also said a bunch of other stuff about him. Means he doesn't think the Holocaust actually happened, because there's no hard evidence or something. So he decides to sue her by saying he's never said he's a Holocaust denier. So she has to go to court in England when she's from America and she doesn't understand any of the court systems, and it has all these people like backing her up the entire way. And it is a movie too. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I would like to watch it. It's a movie with Rachel Weisz. I don't know how to say her name, but she looks very familiar on the cover. I was honestly hooked from the start. As soon as like she is explaining what happened, how it happened, where they got from point A to point B, I was like, yes. And if I would have read this back in high school when I was like learning about the Holocaust and World War II and all that stuff, oh my gosh. This, I would have still been obsessed. I'm obsessed with it now. I thought it was so good. We read this as a book club pick and it was supposed to be November's, but I was like really behind because I kept getting other books to read and I never got around to reading my book club picks. And my friends, both of them, said that they were not really into it at the start, but like once it like picked up and the actual trial was happening, they were like, yes. But I loved this the whole way through. I gave it 5 stars. There's my verdict. Now the next book that I have is Anna and the French Kiss, and this is what I was talking about when I was like, I really wanted to read romance, and I started with this one and it was perfect. So I did I give it 5 or 4 stars? I have to keep flipping back and forth. I gave it 5 stars because I only had one issue with it, and it was just cute enough that I was like, I love everything about it. And look, I matched the cover now with my pink hair. I didn't have pink hair when I read the book, but it was cute and lovely, and there was like only one issue with it, which was, there was one point in it where Etienne says something about cheating, and if you've read the book you know what I'm talking about, and that was like, I read some reviews on Goodreads and that was a lot of people's issue with it, and like if that line wasn't there, this would have been even better than 5 stars. Oh, it would have been like, stay 5 stars. I don't know, maybe like a 4.5 for me, but this could have been 5 stars if that comment wasn't made. If that makes any sense. I hope that makes sense. Alright, number 11 on my list is The Alchemist by Michael Scott. Now, I bought this for real cheap. I don't know how much it was. Where's the little thing? It doesn't have it. I'm pretty sure I bought this for like $2, maybe $3, because there's like this one and another one called The Alchemist, and I don't know if I got them confused or if I knew that this one was different, because I know I want to read the other one, but I think if I would have read this when I was in middle school, I would have liked it a lot more. I give it 3 stars. It's got some cool magic and some awesome stuff, and it's these 2 twins that discover magic with Nicholas Flamel. Oh wow, I couldn't say that properly. I almost didn't finish reading it because I was just not getting into it, and I know that if I would have read it when I was younger, it would have been a whole different story and I would have loved it a lot more. But I don't think I'm going to continue on with the series just because it didn't hook me like magical stuff normally does, and I love fantasy books, so that was very weird for me. But I like the concept. It was a cool concept. I'll give it that. I just need to be a little kid again and then read it and I'll be fine. Book number 10 of January. This one I also gave 5 stars, and it is Days of Blood and Starlight by Laini Taylor. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her name. Everybody pronounces it differently. However, This is a really big book. I didn't think it was this big, and like all the chapters are like super short, so there's like a million chapters in here, which is wild, but I loved it. Let's see what I had to say about it. Okay, so in this book they finally mixed the human and the chimera world, which I loved it, and I love Karoo, and I love that she's finally figuring out how to mesh her two lives together. How she's figuring out what to do with herself. Like, literally this entire world is amazing. I made a little comment about Iago in there. I'm not gonna say it out loud because it will spoil stuff, but this is great. I gave this 5 stars, and I cannot wait. Like, I have the book waiting for me on Libby, and it's coming, and I can't wait to read it. The next book I read was My Lady Jane. And this is by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. 3 people wrote this. I have heard good things, and I started, I think, in September or October to read this, and I think I got like maybe 100 pages in. I was like that much in, and I was like not feeling it. And I knew that if I read this when I was feeling like this would be a good book, that it would be an amazing book. And I was right, because I started reading it again in January, and I rated it 5 stars. This is a retelling of Lady Jane Grey. She was the Queen of England for 9 days, I think. I don't know if that is real or if it was a story, because the second book in this series is a retelling of Jane Eyre, and I read that in March. I had to think about that. I'm like, it's somewhere here, but I won't talk about that. I'm going to talk about this one. So this one is Jane, who was Queen of England after her cousin King Arthur died, and then Queen Mary came and beheaded her, but in this book she doesn't get beheaded. Instead, lots of people can turn into these animals, and they're called Ethians. So if you can turn into an animal, you're called an Ethian. If you're not, you're called a Verity. It's just really fun. Like, this whole time it was really fun. Jane gets married to this dude who's a horse all day, and she doesn't find out till after they get married. And there's like curses and stuff. Just like, honestly, everything about this was fun. I gave it 5 stars, and I'm so glad that I waited to read it, like continue on, because when I first started reading it, I was suffering. I just could not get through it. I was like, you know what, just wait and put it on hold for now and then come back to it. And I did, and it was totally worth it. Oh wait, what? This is not in the right order. Number 8 on my list is Neverwinter. And I had purchased this book, and then my coworker told me I needed to read it, and I was like, okay, because it's one of her favorite books, and I gave it 5 stars. This is amazing. I listened to the audiobook, and they had a little extra story in the back about the one dude getting his jacket back, and honestly, I think that was my favorite part. I'm just like, another hour of like, ooh, there's more like on here, there's another hour left, what's happening? And it was like awesome. I do want to watch the TV show to see what happens, because this is based off of the TV show that he also wrote. He kind of like wrote a story during / after the TV show was on, and I think it was on in like 1996 or something. Oh, how the Marquis got his coat back. That's the extra little story. But this is in London, but like also not in London. There's like an underworld, and this girl Dora needs help, and she goes to this guy who's in London, and he ends up helping her in this really weird way. I don't know how to describe this book. It's just very strange and totally amazing. Like, so good. I just don't know how to describe the magic in this world, because it doesn't make any sense to me, but is worth the read 110%. What did I write down on my little thing for that? Oh, I had no idea what to expect when I started this, but I think that was for the best. So you shouldn't know anything about that book when you start. You should just know that it's really cool. It was weird, and I was on board the whole time. He's also writing a sequel, which I thought was wild. When he writes a sequel, I'm gonna read it, because he said he was never gonna write a sequel, or he doesn't like writing sequels, which is Neil Gaiman, by the way. I forgot to say his name, but you all know him, probably. Alright, this one I didn't write a review for, because I don't think I really need to, and it's Saving the World in Other Extreme Sports by James Patterson. This is a Maximum Ride book. I read these because I read the first 2 and a little bit of the 3rd one when I was a kid, and I found them for $4.50 each at the bookstore, and I was like, I'm gonna reread them, and they're just fun, and when I feel upset I will just read this, and I love all the characters and all their jokes and everything that they say. That's why I find it fun, and I gave it 4 stars. Number 6 on my list is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't know, I had to think about her name there for a second. Pretty sure I'm gonna read anything that Taylor Jenkins Reid has written, because this is great. I also had the audiobook for this guy, and if you look into it, they have like different characters talking the whole time, and there's a different narrator for every character that you see in there, and so it was really cool to like hear different voices while you're reading like the different people, but it is very difficult if you can't differentiate voices, which is very hard for me because they don't tell you who is talking on the audiobook. You have to read it in the book. If you haven't heard about this book, where have you been? You need to read it. Number 5 on my list, I gave 3 stars, and it's called Potions, Herbs, Oils, and Brews. If I can find a picture, I'll put it up here, but it was just a little thing that I was looking through for witchcraft. I don't know, if you want to read it, like, sure, like, it wasn't bad. There was some good stuff in there that I took away, and I was doing it because I was really bored. It still counts towards my book count for the end of the year, which I have set at 50 books, but I'm secretly gonna try to read 100. So number 3 on my list, I also gave 5 stars. I've read a lot of good books this year. I'm very proud of myself. And it's Bone Crossed. I already talked about it. I love this series. Patricia Briggs has stole my heart with these characters. Mercy, Mercedes, and I love Adam. And I love everybody. So that's all I have to say. If you like werewolves and shapeshifters and stuff, join me. We're down to the last 2 books. The first one, or not the first one, the second book I finished this year is 3 Dark Crowns by Kendare Blake. I finally hopped on this. I have read some of her stuff before. I've read Anna Dressed in Blood, and the sequel to that one, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. And I loved it, loved it, loved it. And this was very different, I think. Very different. It's gone around BookTube, and I saw that it was very popular, and I really wanted to read it. It sounded very interesting to me. It's about these 3 sisters that live on the island of Fenburn, and they have to compete during the Ascension year to see who's going to be queen. But they all have a different gift. So one is a poisoner, one is an elementalist, and one is a naturalist. Except for 2 of the sisters are really weak and one is very, very strong. And they can't figure out why. Nobody knows what's happening with them. The poisoner can't eat poison and not get sick. The naturalist doesn't have a familiar or can't like talk to animals or control them in any way, shape, or form, and so it's like very confusing. So they want the naturalist, not the naturalist, the elementalist. They want the elementalist to become queen because she's the only one who actually has any abilities. But this island is very mysterious and it won't let them leave, and it is like if they don't want to compete, like it doesn't give them an option. And there's also this really creepy pit where they dump the bodies of the dead queens. So that's the part that freaks me out the most, honestly, is the pit. But anyways, plot twist at the end of this made me want to continue. I did give it 4 stars. It is really fun. Like, I really enjoyed it. I just didn't like blow my mind, you know? But I do recommend. I like this a lot, and I'm going to read it till the bitter end. And I have read the second one already, but I will talk about that later. The first book that I finished in January and 2020 is The Book Thief by, what's his name? Marcus Zuzak. I hope I say his name right. I don't think I really have to explain it at all. I'm sure everybody has read this because it is amazing. And if you haven't, what are you doing with your life? What was I doing with my life before I read this? This was our book pick for September, I think. September. This was the book club pick for September, and I just finished in January. As you can see, I was very behind. I think I listened to the audiobook. I don't remember. I think I half read it, half listened to the audiobook, and I started watching the movie not too long ago. I'm like halfway through the movie, and like 10 out of 10. I gave this 5 stars. If I could give it more than 5 stars, I would, because this is a beautiful book. Like, amazing. I don't know how else to describe it. That's how it is. And those are all of my books for January and February. Sorry I went backwards, but I didn't want to flip over that pile. That was a big pile. You can see it in the thumbnail. It was a lot. I hope you're all doing well in quarantine, and I'll hopefully see you with more videos now that I have a lot more free time, because I don't have to commute an hour and a half to school every day. I do not have work, and classes are only like an hour instead of 2 hours, so I have a lot of free time. Hopefully this is entertaining. As always, all my links will be in the description with everything that you need. I apologize for any noise in the background. Everybody's stuck at home. I hope you all have a great day. Bye!